There have been some major changes to Facebook ads in Europe recently. They don't just apply to advertisers based in the EU. They apply to anyone that is running ads to people within an EU country, no matter where you're based. Also, I'm pretty sure that these changes are going to be rolled out to other countries very soon. So what am I talking about?
What is he talking about? I don't know.
Now, Facebook has started actively asking users within the EU to check their privacy settings in regards to ads. Now, unfortunately, I can't show an example because I'm based in the UK, which is no longer an EU country, so we're not getting this sort of privacy prompt here. And also the examples that I've seen aren't actually in English because the majority of EU countries, the native language isn't English, so they're popping up in all their languages. But I have seen these examples and we are getting reports these are popping up more and more. And it's basically asking users if they are happy to be tracked, if they're happy for their online activity to be tracked by Meta, once they click on ads and whatever they do and go to other websites and all that sort of stuff. Now, the pitch from Meta, because you might think, well, everyone's just going to say no. The pitch from Meta is that if you allow us to track you, we're going to be able to serve you ads that are more personalized to you. So it's going to show you ads for things that you're actually interested in based on your online activity. If you say, no, I don't want to be tracked, then you're not going to see those personalized ads with products or services that you might find interesting. You're just going to see the generic ads that are pushed out to everyone, the similar sort of stuff that people might have seen on TV, watching TV, 10, 15 years ago. It's just the generic stuff that's pushed out to everyone, right? Now, from what we've seen so far, this prompt is a required action in terms of if it comes up to you as a user, you have to respond to it. You can't just sort of click off and ignore it.
Why are you running?
You have to say, yes, I'm happy to be tracked, or no, I don't want to be. Now, this is obviously very similar, and it reminds me of the iOS 14 prompt that was only sent out to iOS users. This applies to people within the EU no matter what device they are using, but it was sent out to iOS users and it basically had the same sort of pitch. It was like, look, if you allow us to track you, we'll be able to serve you personalized ads, you'll have a better experience when you're using Facebook and Instagram. And we know that roughly the data that we've got back from that was about 4% of people said yes, they were happy to be tracked, 96% of people said they weren't. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's the same with this prompt, which is certainly not ideal for advertisers. So what's the likely impact on ad performance? Now, obviously at this point, it is really hard to say. When iOS 14 was introduced, people thought that was going to be the death of Facebook and Instagram advertising, that no advertiser will be able to see any results. And if you can't see results, how do you optimize campaigns? How do you improve performance? Do all that sort of stuff. It wasn't that. It wasn't ideal for us advertisers, but it wasn't that. There's more money spent on Facebook and Instagram ads now than there ever has been. There's more advertisers, there's more users. The platform is very healthy. Lots of businesses are still growing, scaling, using this platform. So it wasn't as bad as people predicted. And I think that this change in Europe is probably going to be a similar thing where, yes, a lot of people are going to opt out of tracking. That's going to affect the data that we see within Facebook ad accounts. That's not ideal for Facebook advertisers, but is it the end of the world? Does it mean that you no longer want to advertise anywhere in Europe if that's important to you? No, that's not the case, right? You want to be still taking advantage of those markets if that's a core part of your business model where you want to reach these people to sell your products and services. If the data you get through isn't perfect, maybe there's other things you can do to supplement that. You can use UTMs, you can use the conversions API. There are things you can try and do that I've talked about before in relation to the iOS 14 changes. I think we're going to be looking at making some of those same adjustments when we're advertising within the EU. Also, depending on where you are advertising, this may or may not have a smaller or larger impact on you. Remember, it's not where you are, whether you're in the US or you're in Germany, it's where you're advertising that matters, whether or not this is going to affect you from an ad performance, because it's the users in those locations that are going to see this prompt and have to decide either way whether or not they want to be tracked. Okay, so just depends. Do you advertise to the EU? Is that a core market of yours? If it's just a fringe audience for you and your main core markets are elsewhere, maybe you just decide to not advertise in those locations. That probably wouldn't be the end of the world for you. If it is a core market, you don't want to sort of go, I'm never advertising there, we can't track the data, there's no point. I certainly don't think that's the case. And as I said, it's going to be more like the iOS 14 situation where we don't have ideal data. This is not something that we want, but it's not going to be the end of the world either. So in terms of performance, just keep an eye on the various locations you're advertising in. See how performance changes over time. It's not something to panic about, but something to be aware of.
Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm.
Are you going to see a drop-off in your EU targeted ad sets, let's say, versus your non-EU targeted ad sets? Keep an eye on that. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. And if you do, then you can make adjustments along the lines of what I've said, diverting budget, really cracking down on being able to track and adding in some edit elements. There are things that can be done there, but just something to be conscious of as an advertiser. And one other thing I need to mention about this is that we may well see this rolled out to other countries. We know the way in which the world is headed. They're headed towards more online privacy, that being more important for users. So platforms like like Meta and other platforms, we are having the tracking capabilities curtailed, not being able to track the actions that people take once they leave the platform, see what they're doing and all that sort of stuff. It's not what we want as advertisers. It does make our job harder, but it's a thing. We just have to deal with it, move on. It doesn't mean that we need to throw the baby out with the bathwater and stop advertising or anything like that. It's just, we just need to roll with the punches and work out new ways of doing things under the new setup. So right now, this is being shown in the EU. Will this be rolled out to other countries? It could well be. So I think it's important to be aware of and maybe even start planning. If you're just advertising in the US, for example, and you're thinking, is this gonna happen here? It could well do. So have a think about that. And what would we do if that did come in? How could we adjust things? It's probably not a bad little thought exercise to go through. Oh, and by the way, if you would like the results that we got for this client or for this client, you can click on the link in the video description below. There you'll be able to find out more about our done for you Facebook ad services. Another big change that we've seen to Facebook advertising within the EU is Beneficiary and Payer. And you may have seen this pop up at the ad set level. I'm going to talk you through this and explain what you need to do as an advertiser and what this means, okay? So I'm in an example Facebook ad account here, and I've just created a quick example leads campaign, but it would apply to different campaign types. And I'm going to go ahead and jump over to the ad set level and then click edit on this ad set. Now remember, with these changes in the EU, it depends where you're advertising, not where you're based. So I'm based in the UK, and right now the default location is United Kingdom. So we're not seeing any beneficiary and payer information here at the ad set level. But if I go ahead and edit this to an EU country, let's say for example, I pop Spain in here as my target location. And once I've done that, if I now scroll down, we'll see this new beneficiary and payer section pop up. And you can see that it says here, for any ad set with an audience within the European Union, indicate both the person or organization benefiting from the ad set and the person or organization paying for the ad set. Now, a lot of the times that's going to be the same business. It's going to be, so for example, if I was advertising as Heath Media with our own ad account, the payer would be us, Heath Media, and the beneficiary would be us, Heath Media as well. Sometimes that's going to differ. If, for example, you're working with an agency and they're paying for the ads and sort of going through their ad account, then the payer and the beneficiary will be different. And there are some other cases as well, but you do need to now select this information from here. And there's just a quick pop-up here saying that you can set this up in settings, so it's auto pre-filled. You just go to account settings and go through that. Quick and easy either way, to be perfectly honest. So the beneficiary, who is receiving the benefit? Who is getting the leads? Who is getting the sales? Who is getting the exposure? Who's getting the engagement from this? We need to go ahead and click on this. And then you should have at least one option down here below, which is obviously the information that gets pulled through from your account settings. If that's not right, how you want to be displayed, you could just go with freeform text and pop in. So for example, we could go ahead and pop in Heath Media, which is our company name in there. And then you need to select whether it's a different person or organization is paying. If it's the same payer and the same beneficiary, so whoever's paying for the ads, absolutely fine to leave that off. Otherwise, if you want to make it different, you would select that and then obviously just do the exact same thing, pop in a different business or use the freeform text option once again, and then put whoever that is. So let's say it was me personally paying for the ads to benefit my company. Don't know why I would do that, just give you an example. That's how you would set this up. So you need to get this set up for every ad set that has an audience within the EU. It's quick and easy to do, but just something that you need to take care of and be aware of to be compliant and make sure that your Facebook ad account doesn't get disabled because you entered in the wrong things or something like that. That's definitely something you want to avoid. By the way, have you seen my new recommended Facebook ad campaign structure? I show you exactly what it looks like in this video here. I previously recommended a different campaign structure for years, so this here is a big change.